Okay, so we'll rattle through the papers for you this morning with political commentator Andre Walker and light of our lives, the anthropologist Marianne Hotter, always smiling. Marianne, let's start with you, shall we? Sunday People.
Sometimes at you, sometimes with you.
Yeah. Normally at me. The Lionesses.
Yes, look, isn't it lovely? You get to have loads of pictures of lions.
That's always a good thing.
Female lions, not the main
Yes,
ones.
the Mirror have very much enjoyed that.
Yeah,
Raw talent.
Yeah.
And for those listening on the radio, it's the captain facing off against a huge lion with both of them, it looks like their teeth out.
Yes, that's right. So obviously the kick-off, 5 p.m. today. I think everybody will be watching, apart from Andre, who doesn't understand what
right.
was.
Do you know something?
Sport thing,
This is not.
people on one
This
side,
is not fair, right?
a bit of leather ball.
This is not fair. During the last package, I admitted I didn't know that this was going on. You weren't supposed to mention it, Marianne. I was supposed to.
I don't know how you've missed it.
I know.
I don't know how you missed it.
I don't know how I've missed it. Right. Okay.
So different question. Now that you know that it exists, are you excited?
Are you going to watch?
I've got to be totally honest with you. The thing that really excites me about it, and I do know nothing about football, but my dad was on the executive of Lancashire Football Association, and my little brother is the chairman of a football club. And my little brother rails about the fact that the training or practices for younger people are not there. The cost of being in a football team is prohibitive to lots of people. In his club, he's hoping to start giving away all these lessons for free and all the coaching for free. And I've got nieces who are very interested in it. And so I'm interested in the fact that 90,000 people are filling a stadium. I think this is the first time in history a women's football team has filled a massive stadium. I might be wrong.
It's the biggest, certainly the biggest crowd in Europe.
So that's good.
Aidan's point, the sports editor, made the point before that there's a risk, of course, that this becomes a kind of a crown jewel moment where everybody watches a big international final, but actually the grassroots of the women's sport isn't there and isn't being invested in, isn't being celebrated.
This will reinvigorate the grassroots.
I hope it'll give it a real boost. But that kind of needs to follow through in the coming weeks and months. So I was thinking,
has the boost even been sufficient? If we can sit here and Andre genuinely can say, I didn't even know that the game was on. We're going to take you on your word.
Well, hang on, I wouldn't have lied about it.
Minority there. I'd imagine you're in a small minority.
I think that's probably
across the country. But I was thinking, I'm going to watch the match today with my 4-year-old. We're going to, kind of cheer for the Lionesses. But then I was thinking, actually, what I really need to do is get some tickets for us to go and see some women's club matches when the Women's Super League starts in the autumn. Because actually, that's the thing that supports football.
The game, yeah.
Well, I think there is a big... But does your 4-year-old like football? Or are you going to be forcing him to go?
He's not bothered. I'm not really bothered. But seeing live sport is exciting, isn't it? And I think he's a little boy. But I think one of the things that I feel really passionate about is actually seeing women as athletes, and their bodies are about strength, about technical skill. It's not about being pretty. I think that's really important. It's important for little girls, but it's also really important for little boys.
Do you know when you're talking about children wanting to watch football, I do think that there's a huge advantage with the promotion of women's football. I'm 43 years old, so I'm not that old, but I remember when I was a kid. You used to be able to walk up to Liverpool or Everton on the day and go in and watch a First Division match or then a Premier League match, depending on when it was. Now, that's incredibly hard to do. And if there are now a men's Chelsea Football Club and a women's Chelsea Football Club, you expand the number of seats in these club games, and therefore I think that's a good thing. So suddenly, young people are not in a position where they have to be on a waiting list for a season ticket and pay an absolute fortune. And I think that is a huge advantage of women's football.
Well, we're anticipated, I don't know who makes these predictions, to drink 8.7 million pints or something.
Well, that's what I'm doing anyway.
But let's talk about drinks, because in The Observer, Andre, cider producers, they want a bit of a promotion.
Yes, there is a review into rules on alcohol, and as we've seen, God bless the European Union, they brought in all sorts of rules on what constitutes champagne and things like that. And cider producers are really unhappy with what they deem to be not cider. So there are some people saying that cider should be made 100% from apples. Obviously, the alternative to that is to get this concentrate stuff and then put water into it and sugar syrup and all that. At the moment, you only need 35% juice for it to be an actual cider. Campaign for Real Ale is saying 50%. But the long and short of it is, and I did have an unfortunate incident with this when I was 16. I didn't quite end up with my stomach bump, but some of this very, very nasty cheap cider, basically cider producers say is undermining the image of their product.
I would agree with that, isn't it? You want it, I mean, you know, it's the old, you know, if you want champagne, it sort of has to be made in Epernay, doesn't it, and all that sort of thing. There's a big street and they've got all the champagne houses. It's amazing. It's amazing to see. But with this, yeah, proper cider, decent, proper quality cider being called cider.
So what would be the name for the inferior cider then?
Maybe it's
need a
a cider-style drink.
Style, yes.
It's the apple juice.
But I mean, let's be honest. If you were somebody who was incredibly proud of your cider product and you were looking at, I mean, name some of them. I won't because it's probably unfair. But we all know what we're talking about. Some of the absolute rubbish that you see.
But then no one thinks they're the same product.
No,
do they?
I mean that's the thing. Like if you kind of change the name, the legal name of what it would be a fortified alcoholic apple
tasting
concentrate drink or something.
Give it a brand name.
Everyone would still call it cider, and it's still like the absolute minimum unit pricing, and it tastes scuzzy. I mean, if you want to just stop people drinking it, then we should stop selling it. We should have minimum unit pricing.
To be honest with you, this is one of those things where I'm pretty ambivalent about the whole subject, just for that reason. I don't know whether it makes a huge difference, but I suppose if other products get their names protected, then why should cider be treated differently?
Minimum unit pricing doesn't seem to work. They do it in Scotland, and it hasn't had an effect. It's had the opposite effect, apparently.
I think different studies have shown different
things.
Different,
Lies,
different.
damned lies.
That's a very polite way.
Yeah.
That's
but no,
What was it Vic Reeves once said? 87.6% of statistics are made up on the spot.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Hosepipe bans in the Observer.
Yeah, so they're coming,
I think
obviously.
It's a bit unfair for anyone who's watching or listening north of about Watford.
So the south and the east are particularly water stressed. The north is currently experiencing perfectly reasonable watery conditions. But it's fundamentally because this July, it's been the driest month on record since 1911. In the south and east particularly, the rainfall so far this month has been 14% of an average July in the last decade.
Right.
So it has been extremely dry, and you kind of look out at someone's lawn and it looks like the Serengeti. I mean, it's mostly dead, the rest of it is straw. So the big question is this the new normal? We're going to have to get used to these kind of really extreme heat conditions. How do you garden differently? How do you have behavioural expectations around the way that we use water? So the water companies are saying, well, I don't think it is worn off. And groups are saying, we have lobbied the government to say you need to respond quickly. You can't have a knee-jerk reaction to these things because we know they're coming. We need plan. We need infrastructure investment, things like reservoirs, things like maybe using something like the Grand Union Canal to move water around the country from the bits where it's nice and green and wet to the bits that are very dry but have lots of people. And then things like don't water your garden. Yes, some of the plants are going to die. Don't replace them with the same plants because the same thing's going to happen next summer. Don't fill up your paddling pool. But of course...
Where's Percy Thrower when you need him?
Well, the flip...
I've got to stop you there.
Oh, OK. The flip side of it is obviously the water companies need to actually do the investing because they're still making money.
Oh, good luck with that.
Yeah, and stop the leaks.
Stop the leaks.
Thank you both. Mary-Ann, Andre, good to see you both this morning. Thank you.
It's 9:15. Don't go anywhere. We've got lots to come, including the cutest, cuddliest and most hard-working puppies you've ever seen.